So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Natalie Healey. Natalie has worked in the mental health sector for over 30 years and she's an experienced and qualified nurse, trainer, mentor, facilitator, clinical supervisor and coach. She's specialised in child and adolescent mental health for over 10 years and she's got a Master's in adolescent mental health, and along the way has been involved in research as well as numerous innovative projects at both the local, state and national level. Natalie is passionate about many things, one being workplace wellbeing, and she credits her own self-care practices, including regular clinical supervision and mentorship, to allowing her to deliver her best and actually be committed to the sector over the long haul, and also her overall career success. Today, Natalie is going to be presenting an interactive session where you can take home, where we can all take home some really important self-care action plans so that we can all stay in this for the long haul. And whether you're a clinician or not, self-care is always appropriate, isn't it? So, please join me in welcoming Natalie Healey.
Thank you. Because it's that time of the day, I'm not going to stand up there, and I also have a phobia of microphones due to an unpleasant event that occurred about a year ago. So when someone handed me a microphone in front of 100 people and said, "Here, it's your time to talk," and I went, yeah, and I'm not going to do that. So I actually I feel really lucky to actually have the last session, because it's a time for us to actually sit and reflect. And what I'm going to get you to do is take some things away from this session as well. So I want it to be interactive, I want it to be fun, and I want you getting your energy moving again, because we've been sitting down all day. But it's been a fantastic day. Has everyone been enjoying themselves? It's fantastic to have the opportunity to rethink about how we've been tracking in the youth's mental health sector. And for me, it's been a little while since I've actually been around people who have worked in youth mental health services. So it's been an amazing experience for me to actually get to know a lot of you, and also to get to hear what are some of the current challenges. Also to let people know that I'm here to support you as a sector, no matter what background you come from. I'm here to help in any way that I can to actually track forward in the mental health sector, but also for youth. I first of all want to say thank you to Amy and to Chris for engaging me as a consultant or a person who's actually been able to help the PHN. I really appreciate all the support from the mental health team as well, and you know who you are, Pridika and Courtney and Jade and everyone else, and David. I just want to say thank you sincerely for all your engagement and meetings, and I've really enjoyed the process so far. I also want to say thank you to Joanna. I'm not sure if she's still here. Just to say thank you to her and the other speakers for reminding me about my passion, and maybe reminding all of us about why we're actually here, because it's really important to hear those stories and be reminded of what some of the current practices are that keep us growing the mental health sector forward and towards one that's for empowerment for people who actually use our services. So it's that time of the day. We've all sat down for a little while. So I thought what I'd do is actually get you moving, because I actually think when we're moving, it changes the way we're thinking. So when we have movement, we all know that there's a connection between body and mind. So what I'm actually going to do is going to get you to do a couple of really simple activities. Before we move though, I just want to make sure that everyone's got one of these. And I'm sorry that it got printed black and white. Usually they're coloured. They're coloured. If you don't have one, Courtney in the red jacket has one. Or there should be some on the chair. All right, so as we go along through this talk, I'm going to get you to use that, but if you just pop it down for a minute, because I'm actually going to get you to move around. So has everyone got one of those? Anyone else need one? Okay, great. So what I'm going to get you to do is actually move around the room, and I want you to be really careful, because we have a camera there that's videoing me. So what I want us to do is to do a pre-activity and start to think about self-care, because that's what this topic is about. It's about us. So this is a chance for you to stop thinking about everybody else, and to actually just think about you for a little while, because that's really important. And what I want you to do is I want you to put yourself on a line. Imagine there's a line going down this room, and I want to, so up here, if we had a line, up here if we've got a scale, that self-care is extremely important, and down the back of the room is self-care is not important. What I want you to do is place yourself on that line for me now, please.
know it's your fault.
This is where the movement will come in.
Okay. Are we where we need to be in terms of, or is everybody squashing down the front?
Can I just ask, so what we think,
How important?
we actually practice?
How important it is. The next question is going to be that. So how important? So extremely important or not important at all? So where are you on the line?
No, I just don't want to cram. I'll stop it.
Okay, fantastic. So can a couple of people or a few people throw out why is self-care important? A few words. Throw a few words out. So you don't feel like you're going crazy? Yep. Yourself?
Avoid burnout.
Avoid burnout. What else?
So being effective support for someone else.
Effective support someone. If we look after ourselves, we can be more effective with other people, right? Any other ideas?
If we don't know how to enjoy our life, how can we help anyone else?
Beautifully said. Fantastic. Anyone else got the last say? Any goers? No? Okay, next one is, right, so there's 3 sections, one here, one in the middle, and then one down the back. And the 3 sections are, how often do you participate in self-care on a regular basis? So down here would be regularly, the middle section would be sometimes, and the back is not very often. So regularly, sometimes, not very often. Am I okay? No. Am I moving around too much? And watch out for glasses. Okay, so we had regularly, sometimes, and not very often. Okay. Okay, what are some of the barriers to people who don't do it very often, look after ourselves? What might be some of the barriers?
Time management.
Time management, yep. Any others?
Access to a good supervisor.
Access? Yep, great. Well, not great, but thanks for that idea. What about the regulars? What some of the activities that you do?
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness, fantastic, because we heard about that earlier and we heard the benefits of that. Fantastic. Any other things that you do? Walking.
Healthy things or not so healthy?
Someone said drinking. Someone had a glass of wine with the girls. Yep. Any other things? Yoga. Okay.
Quality time with
Yep.
people.
Yep. Okay, so what are some of the things at work, self-care at work?
Lunch breaks.
Lunch breaks?
Thank you.
That's an interesting one, but essentially because we are entitled to have a lunch break as well, it's actually something that we need to do. But that's a good point. Any others?
Time in the sun.
Time in the sun, yep. Why is that important? Vitamin D? Yep. Okay, any other ideas? What was that? Humour. Sense of humour? Awesome, absolutely got to laugh. How often do you laugh at work?
A lot. Too much.
Too much. Awesome, absolutely, that's great. Fantastic. So what I want to do with this session is actually just reinvigorate, get you to rethink about what it is that you do in self-care. I'm going to take you through a series of slides. The last question is, what I want you to do is to go back to your chairs, and on your piece of paper that I gave you is just to write 3 things about what self-care means for you. So read 3 words, a sentence or something like that, but what is it self-care means to you? So what's your meaning of self-care? Is everyone feeling reinvigorated now? Has everyone got a pen?
Writing on the key.
Yeah, just so write it anywhere. Okay, before you write your 3 things, Paper flying everywhere. So before I get you to write your 3 things, what I get you to do is if you can fold your paper in 4, so whether it be in quarters or that way, I don't mind. So if it just, you need 4 sections of a page, and you can either write on the front or the back. So it's up to you, use the paper as you like. But what I'm hoping to do is that you take this away with you and actually put it somewhere. That as a reminder of you to actually make sure that you're taking care of yourself on a regular basis. So it's a takeaway for you. So take a moment just to write down 3 things that self-care means for you. Some words. Just the first 3 things that come to your mind. Right. Doing it? Do you need a page? Yes. You're included, pretty good. Do you need a page? Do you need one? Okay, we're all done? Great. So in a few minutes I'm going to actually get you to add to that page. We're going to explore a little bit more. We're going to get you to walk out of here with a plan, your own plan. Fantastic. All right, so who am I? I'm Natalie Healey, and I've been working in the sector for over 30 years, as Sharon mentioned. I worked at Western Sydney LHD in Redbank House as a registered nurse, and I did lots of different roles over the years. Most recently, I've been doing some work in consulting with a range of different NGOs and Headspace and Corinda in earlier days, but I have a Masters in Adolescent Mental Health, which I'm really proud of because it actually helped me engage in my studies, which I've continued to do all throughout my career. I currently am doing some work with high school, so we heard from Michael Carr-Gregg this morning about high school, so I've been trying to work with high school around developing positive environments rather than focus on bullying, focusing on developing positive cultures within school. So let's stop talking about bullying, and I know that might be controversial, but if we actually change the culture then we'll not experience bullying. So I'm talking positive experiences. And also I'm a mum of 2 teenagers, so help me God. So that's a real learning experience and something that I'm glad that I've actually done some training previously because it actually helps to inform my parenting. But why I'm here is because I'm actually really passionate about clinical supervision and mentoring, because my experience as a mental health nurse, I believe having a great mentor and a clinical supervisor actually got me through my career. And I think without actually any trauma. So what I'm wanting to do is actually keep telling people keep talking about it. I'm part of lots of different groups that actually want to make sure that clinical supervision goes across different organisations. But if you're not a clinical person, there should be other things that you need to put in place to actually protect yourself in terms of trauma and things that you're experiencing at work. At the moment, I'm obviously passionate about people. I actually really love people, and I love being around people. When I'm not around people, I sort of shrivel up a little bit. So I love being here and enjoying meeting other people. But I'm really concerned about the workforce. I think we've got a change of guard happening. We've got lots of new people coming into the sector, and the older people that have learnt and experienced actually need to share some of that knowledge and experience, and that's us. So us mentoring the next group coming through. There's high level of burnout rates, there's huge amount of changes even in the PHNs, there's actually significant amount of change constantly going on. And within your own organisations, you've got commissioning, there's so many different things that we're needing to learn. I'm also worried about the quality of care. We heard stories like Joanna's where there's consistently issue that we haven't yet innovated and resolved yet. So I'm really excited about working towards something. But I'm also a trained clinical supervisor, and I've done APS training and also a role theory model. Across the mental health industry, what I hear about a lot is there's a high level of burnout. There's lots of evidence of depression. We talked before about teachers. I'm doing some work with teachers because there is a high level of PTSD, burnout, trauma that they're experiencing within their workplace, but also that they're not actually getting to be teachers like they want to be. In our industry, we know that we're repeatedly exposed to trauma and trauma stories. That can have an impact if we don't actually manage it well. There's lots of WHS issues, environmental issues, how we work, safety issues, and again, the quality of standards. But this today isn't about me, this is about you. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about me so that you understand where I'm coming from. But what I know about you is I know that you generally love what you do. I know that you love working with young people, and how do I know that? Because it takes commitment and it takes courage and love to actually do what we do. We have to love what we do. And that's a remarkable, genuine quality that we all share. And that's a really important thing. What else I know about you is that you generally care about people just like me. And you actually care about how they feel, and you actually care about the services that we deliver. You want them to be better. You tend to put other people first. You're a great listener. You love to see others get well and improve and succeed. There's nothing better than actually seeing that young person finally independent, successful, doing what they're passionate about. Nothing better than that. You like the challenge you like to challenge the current system. You actually want things to be better, and you actually can be leaders. You can be wanting to change things and actually be a person who challenges the current ways of doing things. You give, and sometimes you give so much, and often it's unnoticed. And only you know that you do that. I know that you also want to do more, that you want to give more, that you want to serve more, you want to learn more. You want to see more improvement, and you want to be part of the continuous change and the transformation. You want to leave a legacy behind. But in order to do all of this and to be all of this, the first step is to look after yourself. Yeah? When you get on an aeroplane, what do they teach you? The first thing to do, if there's an air, you pull down and put it on first, and then you give it to your child. So that's the concept, that's the metaphor that we need to be thinking about all the time, because I think, as Chris had said, when we look after ourselves, we're better able to actually serve other people. So it's really important, because if we don't look after ourselves and we can't go to work, there is no service. So we're an extremely valuable group of people. So please take care of you. And the other thing is that you can only give away what you have. If you're depleted, there's not much left, there's not much to give away. And we're givers, we're general, natural givers, born to serve other people, and that feels really good. So if we haven't got anything to give away, then there's nothing to give. So self-care creates self-love, and then once we have self-love for ourselves, we've got love to give away. And it's that love that gives us courage to get up every morning and actually make a difference. Because not all the world does what we do. We're very unique. But because we love it, we've got the courage to do it. Without love, we don't have that courage, because it's the courage that actually drives us to do things. Is this making sense? Is this sitting comfortably with you? Yep, good. It's funny how I know you. So the truth about courage, because that's what we are. We are courageous leaders in this room. We're wanting better. We want our young clients to have better lives. The source of real courage is love. And the source of love is self-love. When we love and nurture ourselves, we have more to give away. And the more love we have, then we act with courage. Anyone want to say anything about that? Does that make sense? Yeah. So who feels they need to be courageous when they go to work? Yeah, it does take courage to work in this industry. Okay, so we're going to get down to real business now of self-care. So self-care is the greatest act of self-love. So in order to love others, you've got to love yourself as well. So it's important that you take some time to look after yourself. Take care, have a cup of tea when you need to, pull back when you need to. So today what I want to do is empower you. I want to give you a little bit of knowledge. I want to increase your awareness, and then get you to start to apply some of this self-care, because what we do is we don't do that. We saw that line before, and there were some people down the back of the room because they haven't been doing it very much. They haven't been doing it as regularly as the people that were up here. So it's really important that we start to empower ourselves and to actually start some of the changing some of the practice that we have ourselves, so then we can actually role model that to the people that we work with. So I'm going to provide you a bit of information, increase that awareness, as I mentioned, and then I'm going to get you to take away your action plan. Hopefully you'll action that and you'll have it present and visible, maybe around in your office or on your desk. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about vicarious trauma and burnout, and then some of the practices. These practices pertain mostly to clinicians or youth workers or community workers, but they're still relevant to other areas like teaching as well. So let's begin. So hands up if you know about, you've heard of vicarious trauma before. So most of you, I figured, that's why I didn't go too much into this, but essentially this is a definition. So it's emotional residue due to exposure to trauma stories and the pain and the fear and terror that comes with listening to trauma stories. And we know what that's like. We've heard difficult stories before, and if we don't work through that, if we don't offload that, somehow that stays with us. Yeah? And it's a state of tension or a preoccupation with that story. So some of the signs and symptoms. So it's either things to notice about yourself, but also to notice in your colleagues. And I'm sure you all do that really well. You support other people because we actually genuinely care about other people. So we often can see things like sadness, people having trouble sleeping, so they're coming to work looking a little bit dishevelled because they haven't had a good night's sleep. This can be anger. In terms of behaviour, you might have more sick leave, reduced job satisfaction, and exhaustion. They might start to actually, people who are experiencing vicarious trauma might actually start to have less motivation and the quality of their work goes down. They also might have more conflicts at home or at work with other people. So we can see it has an impact on our work and our life at home. So it's really important that we start to think about some of the things that we need to do to self-care. Sharon, can you let me know when I'm 15 minutes away?
It's already planned.
Great, thank you. Excellent. So burnout. Burnout's a little bit different to vicarious trauma, or it is different. It's a state of physical, emotional and mental exhaustion with doubts of doubt about your competence and your value of your work. And it's a tension that builds up over time. So it's like compounding issues one after the other, and they're building up, and then you're actually getting quite exhausted. It's linked to vicarious trauma, workloads, change fatigue that I mentioned before, but also your job expectations constantly changing. And I know that's happening in the industry right now all of the time, right? So now it's, when this is happening, this is the time to actually increase your self-care. Those pressures go up, your self-care's got to go up at the same time, yeah? Signs and symptoms are a little bit similar, but it's more enduring. So actually you need to be able to be doing something to prevent it, otherwise it will draw longer and you'll have these health issues. So if you're experiencing, health issues and you're starting to develop diabetes, it's maybe time to start to look at a critical change in your self-care habits. Similar but different. There's a lot of people generally, by the time they get burnt out, they usually leave their work, they usually resign or start to look for other work. So in terms of those two things, plus more, I could have talked about lots more, but I've only got 45 minutes. There's 3 vital actions I think that we need to take. There's 3 areas. So the first one is to do protective. So put in things that are actually regular activities that protect us from experiencing vicarious trauma, from preventing us from developing burnout. The second one is putting in self-care activities. And the third one is creating positive statements about your work, saying have a affirmation or something that you actually say to yourself, like self-talk. Michael Cargrave mentioned that this morning about how do we talk about our work? Is it really hard? And if we're talking in a negative way, how does that actually impact on our psyche and our ability to actually serve other people? So we're going to work through this in a minute. So first thing is protect. So these are some of the activities you could put in place as a professional person. So I'm talking about all of you. They might have different language depending on what area you work in. But a wash-off rituals. So back in the old days, in the 1920s, I don't think anyone, maybe our grandparents, great-grandparents. So what happened in those days is that the miners actually fought to have to be paid to be washed off at the end of their shifts when they've been down in the coal mines. And so that was really helpful for them because obviously they got rid of the grime before they went home. So the concept here really is about you thinking about what is your wash-off mechanism. How do you wash off before you get home? Some people get home and actually someone said to me the other day that they get home and they have a shower as soon as they get home. That's their wash-off, and then work is left behind, and then they actually enter the home realm. For me, when I was working in mental health, I actually used to listen to really loud music on the way home in the car and sing. you know, I'm sure I annoyed other drivers, but that was the way that I actually dealt with it. Do other people do that? Yeah. So think about your rituals. Think about what you do to wash off that stress each day, or the burnout, or to actually work through some of that trauma that you're hearing about. So clinical supervision is usually offered to people who are clinicians. So allied health professionals usually access clinical supervision. However, that is now shifting. Other people who work in the clinical area also can access clinical supervision. And really it's a time out where you actually get to sit with a trained professional and talk through. It's a place to actually reflect on your practice and develop your practice over time. And I encourage people to make sure that the person that is providing you with clinical supervision is trained, and you ask for their qualifications. So there's a ripple effect. So what I mean by that is you drop a pebble in the water and there's a ripple, right? So if, this is a quote from a lady that I worked with in the Aboriginal mental health service at a PHN, and I provided about 5 clinical supervision sessions for her. And she'd never actually experienced any type of mentorship or clinical supervision or reflective practice. And this is what she said, that clinical supervision actually empowered her to empower others. So that ripple effect is really important. So when we're looking after ourselves, then it actually impacts on the clients that we work with. And the other thing is that being someone that you want there's people out there that are looking at us because they want to be like us. So be someone who others want to be like. So you're a role model, regardless of whether you like it or not. If you're working with young people, people are looking for you and going, I really want to be like them. How am I going to do that? Well, looking after yourself is one of the most important things to do, so that they learn to do that as well. Reflective practice is usually something that's offered to community workers, peer workers, different range of professionals. And it's really about what it says. I actually wrote this definition. That's actually about sitting down and reflecting and looking at your practice. How are you impacting? How is what you're doing impacting on yourself and on the client? What are the outcomes? Are actually you achieving the outcomes that you desire and that the client desires? And is there a betterment for both you and the client? So it's really reflective. The other thing for anyone who's a APRA registered professional in the room, there is a requirement for you to actually access clinical supervision. I'm not sure about reflective practice, but I know for the clinicians at the top, there is starting to become a requirement for people to have regular clinical supervision that's documented and proved. If you aren't able to access in-house clinical supervision, reflective practice, mentoring, or whatever it is that you need, there are places where you can go and you can actually privately engage people. Yes, it might cost you a little bit of money, but you are worth investing in. Your own mental health and your own self-care is worth investing in. And check with your accountant, because often you can actually claim clinical supervision or some sort of mentorship through your tax because it's related to your professional development. The other option that you could put in place in your work is communities of practice, which are fantastic. So they're large groups of people who come together with a shared concern or a set of problems or a passion about a topic, and who want to deepen their knowledge and expertise by interacting on an ongoing basis. Has anyone else here got a community of practice set up at their work? No? Okay, so if you don't, you can find out more about it. MHCC, the Mental Health Coordinating Council, have a booklet on how to actually set up a community of practice. And if you're not sure, I'm happy to help you with that as well. They're a great way of actually bringing people together, sort of like a forum like we've been doing today, but actually smaller, but keeping that practice and that conversation going. But again, I would recommend that you have a qualified facilitator and a defined agenda. Whereas mentorship is being somebody for somebody else. So like I mentioned before, you are a role model, whether you like it or not. If you are working in this field, somebody is looking up to you, wanting to be like you. So there was a lady on the television last night who won one of the awards over the weekend, an OM, is that what they are? OM? And she was a marine biologist. Did anyone see her on the news? She was a marine biologist and she won an award. And that's what she said. She actually said you can't be who you can't see, because what she wants to do is encourage more women to become scientists. And so what she was saying is there wasn't any female scientists for her to look up to, but now there is. She now realises that she's a mentor for other women to become scientists. And we are all the same. We are mentors. We could potentially mentor other people, but also that we need that mentorship. So if you haven't got a mentor, there are lots of people around. There's also lots of CEOs who've just retired that are looking for people to mentor. And it's a great process. I actually believe that that's part of my success, that I had fantastic mentors along the way. So another thing that you can put in place is debriefing. Because we know that we experience trauma stories, and sometimes we see trauma where we might be exposed to self-harm, suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts. If that's what you're seeing, then you actually need to put this in place. It's an essential. It's not a oh, maybe I'll do it. You need to make sure that you get access to a trained psychologist or a professional who can actually properly debrief you through a trauma event. Okay, so the second thing, so we talked about one. One was, does anyone remember what one was? Protect? Yep. 2 is self-care. So this is really for you to think about, because I didn't want to actually tell you, let's do mindfulness, let's do this. I want you to actually think about what your self-care activities are, because they're all unique to who you are. But essentially, self-care is important because of all the reasons that you mentioned before when we were talking, but also there's lots of other things, and actually has a massive health impact. So a lot of protective elements to it. It helps you replenish, rebalance, your ability to keep giving, to endure what you need to endure over time, because when we take up employment, we actually usually stay in a job for at least 2 years if we can. Improves our energy, our capability and our capacity to keep doing more work. Lots of reasons why self-care is important. So I've given you the wheel, and I hope you take this back and you actually look at it a little bit more, because I think it's a fantastic tool. It comes from the Recovery College. I found it on LinkedIn. Surprisingly, it hadn't been referenced, but I wrote to them and asked them who the reference was, and it was actually the Recovery College. So I thought this was a fantastic tool, because what it does is actually gives you some ideas and helps you to think about what you could put in place in all of those areas. So there's 6 domains that you can look at, and I'd encourage you to look at that in your own time and kind of pick out something. It might actually spark you to think about something that you could put in place in your self-care regime. And then positive statements about your work. So I'm really good at what I do. I love my job. I love seeing other people succeed. I love seeing younger people strive and overcome adversity. I love seeing that what I'm doing, or the program that I'm delivering, actually makes a difference in the outcomes, in the data that I'm seeing. So those types of things are really important, that you connect a positive experience with your work. Because once you move to the other side where you're saying, work sucks, it's really hard, it's constantly changing, your energy is going down, and then what happens when you get to work, or when you're at work? Your energy is very different to those people that you are serving. So having a positive meaning about your work is really important. What is your purpose around your work? What is your mission around your work? What is your personal mission? Okay, so I've got another activity. How are we going for time, Sharon?
We've got another 11 minutes.
Great timing then. Okay, so before I ask you to fold your page into 4, before we use this, because this is now your time to think about you for a few minutes. Okay? What I want you to do is just privately, in your own space, think about how stressed you are at work. Just think about work for a second, and think about what your level of stress is from 1 to 10. So 10 being you're extremely stressed at work, and I'm just talking generally, like most of the time. Okay? So even it out, average it out a bit. And if you're low, so there'd be low stress, so it'd be 1. So just privately rate where you're at right now. Think about what your number might be. Has everyone got a number? Great. So what I would suggest, if you're 1 to 4, you're doing okay. If you're a 4 to 7, you need to put some action in place, yeah? And if you're from 7 to 10, you absolutely need to do something. Yeah? Would that be fair? Yeah. I'm not going to ask you sitting between 7 and 10, but you know who you are. Yeah? It's time to take action, because what happens if you don't? Physical health issues start to arise. Okay? And that means if you can't get to work, then we don't have a service, and those people miss out on that value that you were meant to add. So on your page, you've folded it into 4, divided it into 4. It doesn't matter which shape you've got, which box. You can either use the back or the front, I don't mind. Have a look at the wheel. Use it as a guide, but what I want you to do is actually write a couple of words if you haven't already. So why is self-care important to you? Uniquely to you. Why do you need to do it? So this is a reminder, when you look up and you're feeling stressed out, you look up and you go, why is self-care important to me? Because, and it's a reminder when you're looking at it that you actually need to do something about it. Why is it important? So it doesn't impact on my family. So I remain happy and loving my job. So I'm able to give more. Then I want you to think about what are some of the protective activities you're going to put in place as from today, and you're going to be committed to doing for yourself. What are some of the self-care activities you're actually going to start to do? So what you write, be careful what you write, because when you write stuff, it actually comes true. Did anyone notice that? Has anyone got a vision board? Yes, some people have got vision boards. So be careful what you write, because what happens will come true. So make sure you're going to write things that you're actually going to do for yourself. Okay, have we all got something in each box? Yeah? Okay, this is a piece of paper that doesn't stop. This is a piece of paper that keeps going, because your activities might change over time. You might go back to work and talk about some protective activities and say, can we set up a community of practice, or can we set up a clinical supervision group? Or if I'm a teacher, let's get a facilitator in to do some reflective practice. And how often are you going to be doing some of these as well? I hope you put some specific. So is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? How often? And are there any people that you need to actually ask? So is there a mentor that you've been looking and thinking about for a while and going, I wonder if they'd actually help me out? Having that ability to be courageous and going up to that person and asking, can you be my mentor? Even if it's just for a few sessions. But also being someone that you might actually offer to mentor somebody else. Okay, all right. So what I want you to do is just look at your page for a second and think, what would my score be? If I put all these things in place, what might my score be? Have a look at those things that you're going to do, because you said you're going to do them, you've written them down, right? What might your score be? If you put those things in place, what might your score be? Just privately, you don't have to yell it out. How might your stress level change? Did anyone's number change? Did anyone's number go down? Yeah, hands up. Great. Awesome. So we know just by doing a very simple activity, by having a plan and actually going out to commit to it, we know that just even the doing that we've just done is going to make a difference. So imagine what it's going to be like when we actually do them. How good would it feel once we've done those activities? Because then we'll be able to do more, we'll be able to give, we'll be able to self-love much more easily. So quickly, what I want you to do is just share with your partner your top 3 things that you're going to put in place as from today to take care of yourself. So share with someone beside you quickly 3 things that you're going to do from today onwards. Okay, are we committed to doing something on your page? Because now you've written it and you've said it, and now somebody else knows about it. Okay? Cool. Awesome. So how was that? How important is it for you to stop for a few minutes and think about you? Yeah. Yeah, great. Excellent. So in just a end of note, because we're going to finish in a minute, is I just want you to know if this session has raised any issues for you, if you're feeling uncomfortable anyway, please go and talk to someone straight away. I'm also here for you to talk to. And if something else has been raised, like a trauma story issue, please get engaged with someone that might help you debrief or actually get some clinical supervision as soon as you can. Because these types of issues, once you've talked about them, actually can raise things that maybe are unresolved, that we've tried to put them away, but now we've maybe let them out a little bit again. So please engage with somebody or talk to somebody, either a supervisor or a trained professional or someone that you trust about those issues. The other thing I encourage you to do is keep this conversation with yourself going, keep exploring it, keep changing some of your self-care activities, keep pushing for those protective activities to be put in place at in your work. Keep looking for other resources. There's stacks of resources online around self-care. When I started to Google and wanted to add more value to this, I went, wow, there is so much that I could have given you today. But just do it. It's time to do it. And I'm hoping that you're feeling much more motivated today after this session to take care of yourself. So again, in order to do all of that you want to do, is you must take care of yourself first.
Natalie, thank you so much. In fact, I think that deserves another round of applause. A really good focus